Welcome back on the AM show. And there's a crucial subject we have to discuss because across many parts of the globe, the demand for food is currently at an all-time high. Ensuring that every human being has access to sufficient food at all times requires that the yields of crops are maintained above current levels. Achieving this in the face of climate variability, soil degradation, and the increased incidence of pests and diseases requires the development of improved and better adapted crops. Well, joining us for a discussion on the US-Ghana Innovation for Food and Economy workshop, we have Dr. Jerry Mboyene. He's an entomologist and senior research scientist. We also have Dr. Maxwell Dakon Asante, a plant breeder and principal research scientist. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
So we know that in our world currently, people are even talking about GMOs again. People are talking about genetically modified foods and organisms and all of that because times are hard. And what people will eat, the local fuel, has become difficult. But what started this entire drive, this road you're going down? I'll start with you, Dr. Mboyene.
Yeah, so just like you rightly mentioned, a lot of challenges in food security in Africa and in other countries, including Ghana. Our farmers are not able to produce sufficient food to actually meet the increasing population. Now, the current population of Ghana stands over 34 million people, and the land for cultivation is reducing. So that means that scientists in Ghana have to do a lot to maximize the yield per unit area so that we can continue to feed people to avoid issues of security challenges. Because once people are hungry, anything at all they can do just because of their hunger. So we must be able to feed our population. Food must be affordable and it must be cheap. And that is what the CSIR and scientists are working towards.
That's an interesting point you make. Dr. Dakon Asante, so we're dealing with climate change, global warming, drought and floods in different places from Pakistan to Accra to wherever you want to mention. But at the same time, we have to provide food for people. I remember a few weeks ago, we put out a story about Bambara groundnuts because, up north, some people were not cultivating the normal types. They were not yielding the results they wanted. How does that feed into the conversation we're having?
So that means that scientists must use all the tools in our toolbox to try and solve these challenges you enumerated. And that's where agricultural biotechnology comes in. Because for plant breeders, we usually cross within species. So if I want a high yielding rice variety, which is also tasty, I take one which is high yielding and I transfer the genes for good taste into that one. But if I have a disease outbreak and there's no source of resistance within rice, then I've come to a dead end. But agri-biotechnology helps you to go beyond your species. And then you can move a gene from another source. So I'm working on what we call nitrogen use efficient rice. We found the gene in barley. Barley is close to wheat, which uses nitrogen,
hops and all of that used for drinks
very, very, very efficiently. And we have moved it into rice. So you can plant that rice in nitrogen deficient soils and
it will still grow.
And then you know that the fertilizer prices have gone through the roof.
Right.
So these are ways that scientists can come in, so that the farmer will apply 1/3 of what you usually apply and still get
his or her yield.
And it's also good for climate change, because if you use too much fertilizer, especially in the lowlands, it turns into nitrous oxide and it affects the ozone layer.
I have an interesting question for both of you. So talking about innovating for food growth and the economy and all of that, I'm sure you listened to Mr. President yesterday when he spoke about import substitution, and one of the foremost things that came to mind for me was rice.
Exactly.
We see the example of the Nigerians. They are not there yet, but they form those rice pyramids and they are doing stuff.
Yeah.
Can we get there in terms of import substitution and growing our own rice to feed all of Ghana with some of what you're talking about? We
can. So there are value chain actors, starting with first the the breeders who develop varieties and produce the seed. The seed companies must take it up. The extension has to disseminate it. Government must come in with a policy that helps farmers to develop because rice is also about land development.
Right.
When you go to Asia, the land is well leveled, the water is well managed, and then of course, even though we are developing nitrogen use efficient varieties, you cannot grow plants without nutrition. So you have to find a way of getting the farmers to be able to get cheap sources of fertilizer and apply. But we have all that it takes to be able to stop rice importation.
We have everything it takes.
We have everything it takes. The varieties
even
are there.
now.
Yes. Right. The varieties are there. We have thousands of acreages of lowlands. In Tree, we call it Afro.
Which we can turn into paddies
which we can turn into
use.
Paddy fields. Yeah. We can turn it around and stop all these things.
For you, Dr. Mboine, what is your take on this, on that same subject, briefly?
Yeah, so sure. Just to add up to what he's saying, you see, importation can actually be stopped. It's all about trying to tackle the little challenges that we have in the production system. So like he talked about using nitrogen efficiently, there are also other technologies available for avoiding issues of pests. You realize that we had issues of fall armyworm in our maize production. Yeah. These are simple tools that biotechnology is able to make use of to produce varieties that are able to overcome damage by some of these important pests. In cowpea, that is beans that we use for our gobe, farmers are not able to produce the kind of yields
and gobe happens to be crucial to...
Very, very important. It's referred to as the poor man's meat.
It's a lifesaver.
Definitely for most people because...
Together with Ebrone and Katia and...
everything.
Cocoa.
Sure. So you realize that the price of our common gobe is becoming a lot more expensive, and that's just because of the challenges our farmers face when it comes to pests and other things. But then through the power of biotechnology, we've been able to develop a variety that is able to overcome damage by one of the most important pests in the cowpea or in the beans. And once farmers have access to this particular variety, they can grow it and harvest a lot in the course of the season. That will go a long way to even minimize importation from neighboring countries, and will be self-sufficient and even export more to further strengthen our city.
And all of this, it's important you make that point, because through this we can further strengthen our city if we're importing less.
Yes.
You know, and maybe even producing to the point where we can have a surplus and export, then you know what that could mean for our economy. That's a very valid point you make. But tell me a bit more. I'll start with you about this U.S. Ghana Innovation for Food and Economy workshop. What should we know?
Well, so the U.S. Ghana Economy for Food and Economy workshop was actually held last Wednesday in Tamale. And it was just the main essence of it was to create awareness on biotechnology in the country and its importance as far as national development is concerned. And those are just some of the few issues that we mentioned here. The challenges of pests in our farming system, reduced area of cultivation, reduced yield because of issues of drought and others, that biotechnology comes in handy to actually assist as part of the solutions that our farmers can actually have. So the whole essence of the workshop was to bring the relevant stakeholders from the Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Health, and all other government agencies on a common table to talk about these issues of how to secure the country food-wise by exploring the role of biotechnology in ensuring food security in Ghana.
Doc, would you say your aims were met in organizing this workshop?
Yes, there were many stakeholders around. They were educated about biotech and all the issues associated with it. Some of these untruths that go around with biotech crops, like it has a terminator gene, it causes cancer. We addressed all those things. If we have time here, we can mention some.
Are these, just to clarify, are these in any way, you're talking about climate smart rice, you're talking about modified cowpea and all of that.
Exactly.
Are these GMOs? Are these genetically modified foods, so to speak?
Yes.
They are?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so clarify for all of us, because I'm sure when some people hear GMO, they get terrified.
Yeah,
clarify for us. What does it mean in essence?
Yes, so let me say this way. As I said from the beginning, if a plant breeder wants to work, okay, he needs a diverse source of strains with different genes. So if I'm working on a trait like fall armyworm, I cannot find a source of resistance in maize, okay? And I find a source of resistance in another organism. Because I'm moving it from another organism, it becomes a transgene. I've transferred the gene from another source into my material, and that makes the material a GMO. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just what it is. But
so there's nothing unsafe.
There's nothing unsafe about it. There's nothing unsafe about it.
I've even heard people say that, when you consume GMOs, even your DNA would be. I mean, you hear all kinds of things that. I'm just bringing these up for you to enlighten lots of people who could be watching us.
So basically, any food at all that you eat contains a bit of DNA for the organism that the food is coming from.
Right.
And the moment, and DNAs are basically proteins. The moment you boil it, or even when you eat it, even if you eat it in the raw form, the moment it gets into your system, there are gastrointestinal fluids that will degrade those proteins. So there is actually nothing like you are eating. No, it's not true.
Okay.
It's not true.
So let me just find out. You are breeders yourselves.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the farmers who, in the end, would have to use these, tools or
the products.
Let me put them that way. How are they going to have access? What is the plan? How do you reach them with all of this? I mean, at this point, I see you like in some ivory tower with your innovations and all of that. How does it trickle down to the farmer that we get the results?
We are not in ivory towers at all. We do what we call participatory breeding. We carry the farmers along, even right from the lab and in our stations, so they know what is happening on the ground. So we now have to go through the finance stages for us to get to the farmers, and they know. Jerry's BT cowpea will come to the market in a year, and then our rice will follow. So
I'm sure the cow people.
So the work is done.
Looking,
very excited.
Yeah,
excited, waiting with bated breath.
And the farmers know about it. We carry them along. They have seen it on the field. I'm sure that some of them have stolen some of the seed already.
I see. So how are they going to have access when it's ready? Is it going to be sold to them? What's the mechanism?
So right now, as I talk to you, we are working with over 100 farmers in northern Ghana who have materials that they are evaluating on their farms. We are working in over 15 different communities where we are having demonstrations for them to see how the cowpea is performing. These are all part of processes towards releasing the variety to them, which is normally done by the National Seed Council under the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. So once the variety is released by the National Seed Council and it goes out, the Ministry of Agriculture now moves ahead to give us we now produce the breeder and foundation seed. Then seed companies in the country, they pick it up, multiply, and then get it distributed to farmers.
Okay, so I know there was a time when we were talking about a shortage of soybean and all of that. I know cowpea is also used in feed, right? It also has its benefits. So to wrap the conversation, what would you say are the takeaways from this workshop, the crucial takeaways for both of you, and what is the next step? What do we do going forward?
So if I may start, and what I'll say is that we've gotten to a point in our national development that biotechnology has to play a very key role as far as food security in Ghana is concerned. We have used it extensively in the medical sciences to produce insulin for our diabetics and all that. And we are now at a point that for our food security needs, we have to embrace it as a country. This is because of the way our population is increasing, the decline in our area of production, and even the poor state of most of our soils. Most of the solutions to the challenges we are facing in food security can actually be tackled when we employ tools in biotechnology.
For you?
So your scientists are working hard. Biotechnology is safe. We are using it, and through it, we can become food secure if all the other things work.
Final words, Dr. Darko Asante.
Yeah, so we'll thank you, and then we'll say that, as I said, biotechnology crops are safe. And we can use it to achieve food security. Dr. Mboyne?
We've consumed biotech crops for nearly 30 years now, and there's been no incidents of someone falling sick because of that. The safety of it is highly assured, so people should brace up for it, and then that's a sure way to secure the country food-wise.
And I think on behalf of all Ghanaians, we would also say kudos to the CSIR for bringing us to this point, because food security is one of those major challenges, or food insecurity is one of those major challenges that we're facing now and which we will face in the near future with all the global dynamics that we have to contend with. But we're grateful that you took the time to join us this morning. Dr. Jerry Mboyina is an entomologist and senior research scientist with the CSIR. We also have Dr. Maxwell Darko Asante, a plant breeder and principal research scientist. They joined us for this discussion on that US-Ghana Innovation for Food and Economy workshop.